is happening? Dash of DFS week 15. Here we are. Here we go. With me, I got my man Jeff on my left. How we doing, Jeff? How's it going this evening?
Doing well, brother. Week 15 started out absolutely fragile, which I'm pretty sure is Italian. So looking forward to it, boys.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then my homie down below, what's happening, Joe? What's going on, my man?
It was fragile, and then at the end of the night, they the boys from Minnesota went in and enjoyed a nice warm hot can of pasta fagioli soup, and but no, that was only the Colts could lose a game like that, and only Minnesota could go down 33-0 at halftime in a relevant game for them. But everything else in between was typical 2022 NFL. I mean, it wasn't even really that shocking, just because that's the way it's been.
Right. It's been an incredible year, and that was kind of like the nightcap for a lot of the regular season right there, man. Is what a crazy game that was. Justin Jefferson, baby, man. That guy just pays off. I tell you what, there's a couple of leagues where I traded him in, and I got a lion's share, and I still don't think I got enough for the guy, very high on his draft capital in quite a few leagues. But we got our man Nino checking in what's happening. He says he got some new graphics for DFS tonight. That's exactly right. We're going to be popping that up here shortly. Once we get in through these banners, we'll actually toss that first one up right now because Nino worked hard on these things. And thank you, Nino. I love it. And yes, of course, the T2T beanies. Love them, Coach. Those are awesome gifts. We got to rock them because it's Christmas time, and the coach hooked it up. And also, Jeff, a friendly reminder, we got to get your picture on here. We got to get you a computer picture.
We're working on it, man. No worries.
That's excellent. So, little housekeeping stuff, guys. Like always, make sure you go into toiletstotitles.com. We got the best videos, articles, the best content out there. And like I said, man, I say this every time, but I don't think people really get it. We got everything you're looking for. We got IDP. We got freaking Devi. We've got Dynasty. We got some really, really good Dynasty, guys. I'm telling you what. And while you're there, make sure you go join that patreon.com/toiletstotitles. There's all kinds of different tiers. My favorite's the $10 tier because it's got the free Frankenstein entry. And I'm telling you, Frankenstein was a blast this year. It's not so fun anymore now that I'm sitting in the side booth watching it happen. But that went from a dynasty to nothing, felt like overnight. But that is the joy and hate of Frankenstein. It's a really good time. And also we still have our coach got some squares out there, and make sure you guys are donate or subscribing, because every single subscriber that gets out there right now, the coach is donating $2. I know if quite a few people are matching that as well, but we just want coach to go broke and laugh while he's so make sure you guys are out there telling everybody sub. We only have one more week to go, so make sure, because like I said, every $2 goes to St. Jude's. There's not a better cause. Like I said, let's break coach, because that'll be funny. Like, just for no other reason than it'll be funny. So we'll go ahead and kick this off, guys. What we typically do is we go into our DFS lineups, and the very first thing we talk about is our fades of the week. And Jeff, I always like to start this segment off with you. You always have some strong fades. I think we've been pretty consistent, although I think last week we maybe messed up, right? I think we faded Patrick Mahomes. I think I faded Christian McCaffrey.
Hey, yeah, like I've said before, you can't bat 1,000 all the time, so it is what it is, Mike. So first and foremost, I'm specifically fading the entire Detroit offense, which includes Jared Goff. Now, Jared Goff is only 7,300 on FanDuel. He has put up some good numbers this year. However, they are at the New York Jets. And on the road, Jared Goff is much different than at home, Jared Goff. If you're looking at total points per game for the team, not necessarily fantasy, but just points scored, Detroit is averaging 32 points per game at home. On the road, they're averaging 18 points per game. So it's a big swing. That's a tough defense. I can't think that Jared Goff is going to get too much to look at against that Jets defense. Joe, you look like you had something to say.
Well, I gotta back up your thought there with some stats. So that's 5 road games for Jared Goff this year. His top 2 road scores from a DraftKings perspective is 14.8, and 3 out of those 5 games he was in single digits. So it's Mish is on to something for sure there.
So, and then not only that, the entire Detroit offense, because I can't see them doing much against that amazingly stout Jets defense. And also from a team perspective, I'm fading all of the offense for the Cardinals. I mean, you got Colt McCoy in Denver. Again, now he's going up against Brett Rippon, who I found out not as the son, but as the nephew of Super Bowl MVP Mark Rippon. Not that it makes a difference. It's just maybe Denver offense might not be out there too much, but their defense is outstanding. And I can't think Colt McCoy and the Arizona Cardinals are going to do much at all at the Mile High Stadium.
I dig it. Joe, who do you got on your fade list this week?
Yeah, I mean, I second Jeff with both of those. I don't think anybody would put McCoy out there anyway, but that does screw that whole offense up in Arizona. And I'm kind of with him on that Detroit thing. Like, it's funny because I mean, Kirk Cousins today, right? Like 0 points at halftime and then 40 points by the end of the game. So I'm all about trash fantasy points. From that perspective, it makes me think maybe Goff is all right. But between what Jeff said, the stats, and the fact that, the weather there, it's not going to be, like a blizzard or anything like that. But weather is now an issue in all of these outside stadiums, especially on the East Coast with the wind. So, I agree with Goff. And then I'll say, too, when you look at the top of the list this week, Justin Fields, who obviously we all love, but they're playing Philadelphia. That game's in Chicago. The wind's going to be a mess there. Philly's obviously one of the top 5 defenses in the league. So this may not be the Justin Fields week either. The funny thing about Mahomes, and I'd be interested to see what you think, Mikey. I love Mahomes at Houston. I just get worried that they're going to go up 35-3 at halftime. Maybe Pacheco runs a couple of those in, and for 8,100, maybe Mahomes doesn't have a great return because he doesn't need to. That's my only other thought there, but I certainly don't think I'm scared of the Houston defense by any means. But weather and matchups now, really every single game, you got to look at those 2 things before you even dive into any stats. Weather's an issue, and then these teams who are either not playing for anything or playing for everything, just more things to consider now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely agree with both of those. Those are all good, strong fades right there. The guys who I'm fading this week.
I'm not saying I would fade Mahomes, by the way. I'm not saying I would. I don't want to interrupt you, but Jeff's already disagreeing with me, Mikey. So I'm just saying that, it's time to start thinking, the matchup, the weather. That's all.
Yep. Especially when you're, if you've been playing week after week and you're just missing these tournaments by, 5 or 6 points or something like that. This could be the edge that you're talking about right here. But go ahead, Jeff.
And just so it's clear, I'm not disagreeing about Mahomes. I'm disagreeing about Fields, because what we've seen, Justin Fields, number one, is coming off a bye, and he's gone up against some plenty stout defenses and has absolutely torched them this year. So until proven otherwise, I think Justin Fields.
He's not coming off a bye. They played the Packers last week, and that was part of my reason for the fade. Or no, maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, you are wrong.
It's weird the way DraftKings does this, because he was out week 12 for injury, played the Packers coming off.
Correct.
You are correct. Yeah. My only other point was going to be, I stand corrected. I can do that. Mm-hmm. I got 2 wives and an Italian mother. I get corrected all the time. I guess it worried me a little bit with Fields too. He only went for 21 against the Packers, and they're without Claypool. That the win there in Chicago, I just feel like Fields is going to have to do it all with his legs tomorrow from a points perspective.
Which I'm cool with rolling the dice on that. But anyways, go ahead, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, no, but I don't mind Justin Fields. I kind of agree with that take there. I think that's where I don't mind his fantasy value. My fades of the week this week is Josh Jacobs against New England. I really just don't like anybody facing New England defense when they can get isolated pretty quickly. That's Bill Belichick's kind of his stick. If he can isolate you, he will. I feel like this is a situation where he can isolate Josh Jacobs in that offense and make Derek Carr throw the ball, which he's been proving this year not to be the greatest stat so far. He's been doing pretty poor. And then the other guy who I've been fading this week is Ryan Tannehill. Just because against that Chargers defense has been sneakily getting harder and harder to throw the ball against. And last week they proved it. I mean, they weren't letting anything happen in the air. I think they kind of started letting things slack there in the second half. But I'm telling you, these guys have been tightening up, and that's one of the better defenses in the game once they start getting all systems go over there. So those are our fades of the week.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. Just because you brought up the Raiders, I'd love to get your take because I wasn't considering Jacobs. I'm kind of with you, but I did spend a few minutes with Devonta Adams in my head. And for all the same reasons you're just talking about as far as the matchup with the Patriots defense. I agree with you on Jacobs. How do you feel about Adams going against the Patriots this week?
I feel like I don't care how you game plan against Adams. I feel like he's one of those guys that he's going to get. He can outplay your game plan. And that's where I feel like Josh Jacobs probably kind of falls a little bit short. He's talented. He looks really good this year, but I think that's a product of opportunity more than talent and skill. But so I think you can isolate him relatively easily with a good, solid defensive package. And I think we're going to see that tomorrow.
And not only that, but Josh Jacobs, if I'm not mistaken, is the most expensive guy on FanDuel this week. So you have that tough defense you're going up against, and then you got to sacrifice the highest salary going and miss out on some other ones. I agree with you there, Mikey.
It's a great point, too. He's second on the DraftKings slate expense-wise, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he's definitely the most expensive on the FanDuel slate as well. So another reason right there. And Rich also chiming in saying, looking sharp in the beanies. I agree, man. Look at these things. I love them. Love them. Thank you for getting those out there, Rich. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Much appreciated.
Next part up is guys we're paying up for. And Joe, we like to lead this one off with you. Who are you paying up for this week? Who are guys that are worth it?
Yeah, we are, after watching that first half from Jalen Hurts last week, I'm not going back to that fade. So Hurts has gone for over 33 weeks in a row. He's 8,200 at Chicago. We are paying up for Jalen Hurts. And, I just to my previous question at wideout, I wanted Devonta Adams despite the Patriot matchup, but he's inflated to 9,000 on DraftKings. So I am settling at 8,300 for Jamar Chase. T. Higgins is looking like, I don't think it's official yet, but he's banged up and he may not play. Chase finally woke up after his injury last week, went for 119 and a touchdown. They're at Tampa Bay. They're going to need Chase, and I like him at 8,300. He's the second most expensive wide receiver on the DraftKings slate, but he was still $700 cheaper than Devonta Adams, and AJ Brown was next at 8,000. And I just feel like Chase is, I don't know how you guys would feel about that. And I love Brown too, but I just feel like Chase is kind of on that next level versus AJ Brown.
I don't mind that.
Agreed.
I don't mind that a bit. I actually, my guy that I paid up for is AJ Brown at 8,200 on FanDuel. So I mean, like I get your case right there, and I mean, as well as my other pay up is Jalen Hurts as well, because you gotta get a piece of that offense, man. That offense is just lighting people up. Chicago scares me not at all. I don't really think that there's really too many obstacles left in the way that really scare me at all, until these guys possibly see San Francisco in late January.
And real quick, my last pay up, I did have one more. I was like, what am I missing? These are all cheap guys, but I'm going, and this is a tough one, and I'd love to get your guys' take on this too. Tony Pollard. So Pollard's 7,100 on DraftKings. I don't mind paying that. And the guy's gone for 22 plus 5 out of the last 6 weeks, and with 230 plus games sprinkled in. So I certainly don't mind paying the money for him, but at the same time, it's a little, it's kind of a mind screw, because you're looking at guys like Joe Mixon at 7,200, James Conner right now, 6,900, Miles Sanders is 6,500. So you're looking at guys who are a good chunk cheaper, and obviously don't have an Ezekiel Elliott back there with them, taking carries and taking goal line opportunities. Are we still, is Pollard still just fully eclipsing, his and you have to play her? How worried about Zeke Elliott are you when you're contemplating Tony Pollard at this point?
I mean, I'll jump in here, but as we kind of saw last week a little bit, they've still been hammering Zeke inside the 5. I'm good with Pollard otherwise, and I really like him in the receiving game. And the guy is more than capable of breaking it off for your 20 plus yards for a score. The only thing that would concern me a little bit is that they seem to lean on Zeke when it's inside the 5 kind of hard nosed run straight forward situation, whereas Pollard's kind of more the finesse guy. But I can't disagree with that. I really like Pollard. I like Pollard more than Zeke just because he's better in the pass game. But that would be the only thing that worries me is just Zeke inside the 5. Really, that's it.
Well, I've noticed a lot of those packages where you do see Zeke inside of the 5. If you look at the flex spot, it's number 20. They've been really putting him in the flex a lot in those packages where you have Zeke in the backfield and Tony Pollard right there. So you're getting a wide receiver at a running back price, which with him, I mean, you're really paying up for him now, right? Like you weren't until about like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Tony Pollard's just been a slam dunk after a slam dunk, and they finally caught up to it. But I really am not too worried about his usage against Ezekiel Elliott out there. I think that he's going to get just as much usage as he has been getting. I mean, like I said, getting you that kind of game in the passing game in a PPR slam dunk. I think Tony Pollard's a great play.
Right on.
All right.
Okay. So
I
the
went
last
first.
guy that
I overdid it there. You're up, Mikey. My bad.
Yeah, no worries. So that's another guy that you're paying up for. The other guy that I'm paying up for this week is Derrick Henry. I do like him against that Chargers defense. Like I said, that they're really picking up against the passing game, but the running game is still wide open. There's the 28th ranked against against the run. Derrick Henry loves to chop people up with his legs. Give me the worst defense against the best running back. I'll take it every single time. So that's another guy I'm paying up for. But that's my pay-ups for this week. Jeff, who do you got, my man?
So I got a few to get into and indulge me for a second here. Now, I don't disagree with you guys on the Hurts points. The thing is, in the same game, you have Justin Fields. He's 1,100 less on FanDuel from a salary standpoint. And I'd like to think that Fields is, I mean, he's certainly as capable as Hurts. Yeah, does Philly have a tough defense? Yes, but has Fields gone for a good amount of points versus tough defenses this year? Yes. So maybe he doesn't get the same amount of points, but he's probably within 5 of Hurts. And for 1,100 less, I can squeeze in some other guys, which leads me to another point, and you just touched on this, Mike, is Derrick Henry. Now, the Chargers defense is already bad. They're about 28th, I believe, versus the run, and they're banged up regardless. I have to think that they're just going to keep feeding Derrick Henry, and he's really poised for a breakout game. We have not seen, or at least from what I can recall, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't seen like that Derrick Henry game where in years past you would have that 200-yard game and 2 touchdowns. We haven't seen that this year, and I have to think that it has to happen sometime this year. I don't see why it might not happen this week. What do you guys think?
I'll tell you, man, last week, so a couple things. I agree. I last week drove me nuts with Derrick Henry because the guy had one of those games in the freaking first half, and then they just didn't even use him in the second half. He was over 100 yards and a touchdown at halftime last week against Jacksonville. He ended up with 121 and a touchdown. So I think they screwed him, and I think that, Vrabel's a great coach, but they're having a weird season, and they're losing some games they need to win to keep their playoff positioning. So I thought that was really odd, the way that his usage decreased in the second half. They need to keep pounding him, to your point. And then just looking statistically, he had a 38 week against Houston where he went for 219 and 2 touchdowns. But other than that, yeah, he hasn't. That's his only monster of the year.
Gotcha. And so And also a couple more pay-ups for me, and on both ends of the spectrum as far as wide receiver and running backs are concerned. I'm paying up for all the Chargers wide receivers. Tennessee has the worst pass defense in the league. You take your pick, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, or Josh Palmer, and that's kind of how they go in order of salary on FanDuel. I'm not too sure about DraftKings, but regardless, I'm taking Mike Williams as part of my lineup this week, and we'll get into that. But you can't, in my opinion, you can't go wrong with any of those guys. On the flip side of that, from a running back standpoint, I'm taking Pacheco or McKinnon or both because Houston has the worst run defense in the league. And you mentioned Mahomes. I think because the run defense is so bad for Houston, I can see Pacheco and McKinnon having big games, and they may not necessarily need Mahomes to pass for a ton of yardage. So that's I know it's pretty long-winded. I appreciate you guys sticking with me on that, but that's what I'm paying up for.
Hey, Mikey's game script comments from, the game script stuff is becoming extremely viable from a fantasy perspective as we get later in the season.
Well, you have to, right? Because that's how we get the good picks right here. And if you follow the game scripts, right? And 95% of the time, the coaches are going to shift because they're reading the same book we are right here, right? They're going to say, we need to do this, we need to do that. But you got to play the numbers, right? It's kind of analytical to go with what you think is going to happen based off of previous results, right? You love the math. You just got to love the math. So with that, we're going to go ahead and Jeff, you said we'll go ahead and get into your lineup. Let's go ahead and get into that lineup. What do you got this week? What are you playing on FanDuel?
All right. So I kind of already started off Fields at home versus Philly. He's 7,900 again, 1,100 less than Hurts. Not that I think Hurts is a bad play, but just for loosening up
that's a good point.
The salary cap, it loosens up the salary cap a little bit. Yeah. Speaking of loosening up the salary cap, and I know Mikey agrees with me on this one because we talked about it earlier. I can't believe I'm doing it, but I'm going to go Pierre Strong. Yes, that's an actual name of a guy who plays in the NFL. He's a running back for the Patriots. He's 4,500 on FanDuel. And I snuck that guy in because Harris is out. We're not too sure about Stevenson right now, but regardless, Strong had 16 points last week. He proved to be a little viable, and if you can get something out of him at 4,500, why not give it a shot? What's up, Joe?
I love that, but it's funny. My question to that, is it Strong or is it freaking Kevin Harris? Because I outwitted myself last week in trying to get that right. And even the last couple of weeks since Harris has been out and since Damian Harris has been out, but then Kevin Harris got some carries one week, Strong another. I don't know. I want to know which one it is.
Well,
I love it. I love what you're saying. It makes a ton of sense. It's just got to be the right guy. And we know how Billy Belichick is with his running backs.
True. Go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, just to give people an intro or an advice here, you got to do this for about 4 minutes before you start finding Pierre Strong or Kevin Harris. Just so you know,
yes.
Just to give you a heads up. Even then, when you get to the bottom and you think, there's no way I've passed him yet, you probably haven't passed him yet. You're going a little bit more.
That's funny. That's
funny. I get Joe's point. They already have a Harris on the team because of the name. Go Pierre Strong simply because of the name, and that's just some quality analysis if I've ever heard it. So
that's logic all back. Sitting right here, I'll back that
logic. And he's a junior, by the way. So his dad's got to be cool. But I digress. So my other running back, I got Derrick Henry. I already discussed it. 8,900. He's at the Chargers. Should be a good game. And I think he's poised for a breakout. Getting into wide receiver, this guy's been a stud. I'm going right back to him. Garrett Wilson at home versus Detroit. He's 7,800. He's been proving the guy. The only thing that makes me a little bit worried is that Mike White seems to be a good distributor now that I don't think he's going to be in. It looks like Zach Wilson is going to be a quarterback. Am I correct in that, guys?
Yeah.
So that would be the only thing that would concern me maybe about that. I think Mike White is better at getting him at getting Garrett Wilson the ball than Zach Wilson, but I guess we'll see what happens. And to me, it's worth the roll of the dice. He's proven himself as stepping out as the number one wide receiver option there in New Jersey. So, and I know I said New Jersey because they actually play in New Jersey. Regardless, I already brought up anybody from the Chargers. Mike Williams, I'm taking him. He's cheaper than Keenan Allen, so I'm going 7,200 Mike Williams at home versus Tennessee. My other wide receiver, I got Devonta Smith at Chicago. A.J. Brown's a great option. Devonta Smith, it just happens to be a little cheaper. I still think he'll get a decent amount of points. I think he's a good option still, so he's 7,200 at Chicago. Tight end, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name still. I'm gonna say it's Czech Congo. I know that's not correct. He's a old UFC fighter, but that's what it sounds like to me. The Tennessee tight end at the Chargers, 5,100. Go ahead, Joe.
So I gotta give props for a minute. You started him last week also, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
There's a lot of injuries. There are a lot of guys we're digging for, but that one last week was probably, in my opinion, like the most out of left field, good cheap play of our DFS show season, in my opinion. And I thought about it the other day that I'm going in a playoff game this week. I have to just say because I still don't even know what the F this guy's name is, but he is in my Okonkwo. David Nwoko's third cousin. But, he is in my playoff lineup as a tight end based on your advice last week, and the guy's getting a lot of targets. So I got to say, good on you.
Last 3 games, 16 targets for Czech Congo. I'm going with Czech Congo. That's not his name, but regardless. So flex, I had to fit in one of the Kansas City running backs somewhere. Isaiah Pacheco, 7,600 at Houston. Again, I think that running game is going to run all over. That team should be interesting. And then defense, I got Denver at home versus the Cardinals. Again, you got the Ripon McCoy Bowl, which should be a barn burner. But Denver's defense was only amazingly, in my opinion, 3,700 on FanDuel, a cheap option, which could open up some salary in some other spots. So that's the lineup. I'll send it back to you, Mike.
Excellent. And with that, I'll go ahead and just go in since we're going on the FanDuel lineups here. So like I said, I love Jalen Hurts this week. I'm starting him out at 9,000. At Chicago doesn't scare me. The weather kind of does, but I'm still counting me in. Najee Harris at Carolina, 6,600. I felt like that was pretty cheap for the production that guy's been giving us. It's nothing legendary, but he's going to give me that 15 to 18 that I need to carry me through that end. I'm with you, Jeff. I'm lining out Pierre Strong Jr. for 4,500. Yeah. I thought I was a sneaky son of a bitch before you said you were right on board with that same move right there.
Pierre Strong, baby. Pierre Strong.
Pierre Strong, baby, right there. Mike Williams, I like him at 7,200. You can't deny that's going to happen to that Tennessee team. It's going to be a lot of air raid. It's going to be a lot of air attack. Get me any Chargers. Unfortunately, FanDuel saw that as well, and they made it like the whole spread expensive as hell. A.J. Brown, I like him at 8,200. Chris Moore at 6,000. I remember last week on the Blitz, we were joking around about Chris Moore. Guy went on to get 6 catches and 87 yards and a touchdown. Why not? Kansas City's going to be having to get passed against to keep up with. I mean, let's not play that Houston's even going to be in this game, but I mean, Houston's played some pretty good teams, pretty tough, and they played them down in the end. So don't count them out. And I think if they can stay in this, Chris Moore will be a big part of that. Hey, another Charger piece for cheap, 5,600. I got Gerald Everett in my tight end. I feel like he's been getting the red zone looks. He could get another good red zone look tomorrow against Tennessee. That just loves giving it up. They're 30th against tight end. Derrick Henry in that flex spot. Like I said, man, he's going to be pounding it. I'm excited to see what he's going to do. And then Jeff was right there, same page on defense. I got to take them Broncos just because that's just too tasty of a matchup not to. So with that, Joe, what do you got going with the DraftKings lineup down south?
Yeah, man. And I tell you what, I'm making some notes because, Garrett Wilson, I get a little nervous because of the quarterback change. But other than that, he's becoming a star, as Jeff mentioned. But, that Denver defense is a solid play. And I don't have them in right now. But I'm going to have to do some tweaking there because they look good against Kansas City last week. Never mind the matchup this week. But DraftKings, we are going Jalen Hurts 8,200. Yeah, I mean, Mahomes was 8,100, but again, don't love the game script that could come out of Houston there. So, like in Hurts again. The running backs, cheap on the running backs this week for me, anyways. Anchored by Tony Pollard at 7,100. But I'll tell you what, Chuba Hubbard, 4,900 on DraftKings this week. He went 14 for 74 and a touchdown last week with another 3 catches for 25 yards. Home against Pittsburgh, who doesn't have Pickett's not going to play. So it's going to be a very it feels like it's going to be one of those games where it's just a conservative game plan all around. And I've been loving Foreman, but I like Hubbard for 4,900. Mace, you're saying you agree on that one?
Yeah, I mean, that guy kind of almost seemed to come out of nowhere last week. But I was looking at that play when you sent it over to us earlier, and in the back of my head, I was looking at maybe I should try to fit that guy in, and I probably will in another lineup. But I really like that play, especially because I think he's probably on the lower end from the salary standpoint. So and you can get you some solid points. I like that play.
Thank you. And I don't know what it is on FanDuel. I've been meaning to ask you this for a while, but like DraftKings is a full point PPR. And it's funny, like you really feel that because, 5 for 50 ends up being a double-digit game from a wide receiver perspective. So, but anyway, moving along, other cheap running back of the week. I'm going to stick with the Jets, Zonovan Knight. 5,300 home against Detroit. We've talked about this game a lot. There's not going to be a lot of defense from the Detroit side. Knight 14, 15, 17 carries the last 3 weeks. It goes up every week. His points have pretty much gone up every week, and he got in the end zone last week. So loving that.
Hashtag Night Train, baby. Hashtag Night Train.
Loving it. 5,300. So the wideouts, we're going to anchor it with Jamar Chase at 8,300 at Tampa Bay. A relevant game for both teams. I feel like Chase is going to go off again. Higgins is banged up, might not play. And then a couple of cheap plays at wideout too. Going back to that Detroit-New York game, DJ Chark for Detroit Jr., 4,500. Last week, he went for 694 and a touchdown. The week before that, he went 5 for 98. So he's starting to hit his stride with Goff. Loving him there. Although, what's really funny, as I'm saying that, what's the rookie's name? Jameson Williams. Yeah. He scored his first touchdown last week, if I'm not mistaken.
First catch in the NFL.
Yeah, he's 40. Actually, that was his only catch last week too. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, because I was actually thinking to myself right now, live out, maybe he's the play. But I'm
give me the guy that 100% of his catches are touchdowns.
There you go. There you go. But I'm going to stick with Shark for now. But again, all eyes on that game from a scoring perspective. And then, Mikey, you stole my thunder a minute ago. Chris Moore, 4,200. Home against Kansas City. Obviously, they're going to have to throw if they want to have any chance. Moore, 10 for 124 last week. But even prior to that, he was playing a relevant role. So we like him there. Listen, we're going to ride the wave. One of our old famous skits, Evan Ingram. I mean, was that the best game for a tight end this year? I would imagine it was, right? 11 for 162 and 2 touchdowns on 15 targets. Absolutely unbelievable. Former Giant pretty much eclipsed all Giant wide receiver stats this year in one game. So we're going Evan Ingram, who's only 3,800, so his salary didn't inflate despite that week. And then loving that Denver defensive play that you guys threw out there. Right now, I got the Dallas defense in. They're at Jacksonville. But I got to be honest, I can save $1,000 to move to Denver. So I am going to do that and upgrade elsewhere because I'm 100% with you guys. Home against Arizona without Kyler Murray in Denver. The weather is going to be an issue. That's going to be a nasty, nasty, nasty long afternoon for that Arizona offense.
Yep.
And I don't know why I just said nasty 5 times.
Yeah, 30 degrees because it's going to be nasty. 30 degrees in Denver. It's going to be chilly. It's not going to be a fun day, I don't think, for any Arizona Cardinals. I think that's a good, solid play. So, and I mean, like last week, I think there was 2 of us with Evan Ingram as our suggested on our lineup. And so, I mean, it's just stuff like that, guys. That's why you should be following us. Make sure you're following us everywhere. Like I say, we've got toiletstitles.com. It's got all kinds of articles. It's got all kinds of videos. It's got the best content out there. I'm telling you, IDP, Dynasty, Devi, we're talking college. Dude, we got Nino talking about guys in high school and freaking Jared. Those guys are on the point where they're watching these guys. I mean, I swear they're probably at Pee-wee level. They're just not letting us know. They're like, oh, I've got these guys all picked out right here. Did you guys see there was that article out there with that 12-year-old who's got a mustache? And
Yes.
tattoos?
He looks like he could be my dad.
Right, he totally does, man. Kid looks like he's already 30 years old, man. It's crazy. But I'm sure that Nino's already been talking about that guy in a couple of different lineups and stuff that he's got plans to get him, because that's how on point those guys are. Make sure you like and subscribe in Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Podbean, Twitch, Facebook, Spotify, anywhere you guys can find us. Make sure you're DM and coach for those $5 squares. Make sure you guys are subbing. Like I said, get on the substitution list. Get out there, because $2 for every sub will be donated to St. Jude's now between Christmas. We got a week left to break coach. And then there's like a few other dudes on there and like one of them's homeless Jason. So let's really bury the hatchet in that guy. Let's break him. Let's get it done. Make sure you guys are watching us tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. We got the best start and sit advice with yours truly right here, and this dog right here. This dog will be one of the key people breaking ties for you tomorrow. That's what the dogs do best. They break the ties for us when we can't get along. I think that's pretty much it. Besides the patreon.com, guys, patreon.com/toilets to titles. Get on that $10 tier, because it's the Frankenstink. Jeff, you look like you got something to add, my man.
One more thing, Mikey. Make sure you follow us, at Toilets to Titles, or, we have all our Twitter handles up there. But obviously next week's Christmas Eve. We're gonna be off on Saturday night, but we're gonna try to make something work. So follow us on Twitter to find when we're gonna have like maybe the replacement show during the week as opposed to a Saturday night, so everybody can kind of enjoy Christmas Eve. And we hope everybody has Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays with their families. So.
And actually, that's 2 weeks in a row, right? Because the following week's going to be New Year's Eve. And I mean, I know we're cool, but I'm not sure if people are going to work us into their New Year's Eve plans. Although we should, we'll get some streamers, a little bubbly. Hey,
there you go. Like, we'll do shots for every question that they ask us, or something like that.
Joe, we're pretty cool, man. We're pretty cool. I don't know what to say. Come on.
Kind of a big deal around here.
Oh, that's good stuff. Well, with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. We will catch you guys sometime next week. Like I said, I'd count on Thursday, Friday, somewhere in that window, but make sure you're following us on Twitter, and we will make sure to verify that for you. And until then, we will see you guys tomorrow in about 12 hours on the Blitz. Thank you, guys.